Afternoon, everybody. It's Brett Zockman, Zach, as I go by, the founder of WoMAN, coming to you for WoMAN session number 3. And I've got Miss Mira Allen with us, all the way from Queensland, Australia, the founder of Manifesting Destiny.
Hello, so nice to be here. Episode 3.
Episode 3, hard charging. Here we go. So what's our topic for today, Mira?
Unconditional love. That old chestnut.
Wait. Did you say unconditional love? Wait, isn't that an oxymoron? Unconditional love. All right.
Yeah. Not always the easiest. Yeah. Okay, everybody out there. I have no sleeves.
So you came prepared.
I'm ready for unconditional love. I'm ready.
Look at Mira stepping into her masculine. She's got her guns going and she's ready to rock those biceps. So, all right, I'll just unbutton my shirt a little bit, hair loosen the collar, wipe the brow. Okay. Unconditional love. Where should we start?
I think we should start with the fact that your son walked past, and that's the first unconditional love that we all know. It's from parent to child. I think that's really important. That understanding of unconditional love from the very beginning of when we arrived, So let's start there.
Absolutely. It's interesting. You become a parent and you think you know what love is. I don't think you have any idea until you become a parent, because it takes it to a whole extraordinarily new level. I mean, how apropos that Mira would have developed such a beautiful logo for these WoMAN dialogues. You have all seen it by now, that yin-yang symbol and the balance, the harmony between the masculine and the feminine. And you know what? Raising children to me is just like that logo. It's like equal parts frustration and joy wrapped up into a little ball. and for anybody who's never been a parent, just take a deep breath, because what I'm about to say might shock you. There are moments when it's pure bliss. It's absolute joy. You couldn't get any happier. Your heart is completely pounding out of your chest through your rib cage. And then there are moments where you're like, I think I'm going to jail because I'm about to kill my own child. I mean, the old joke as a father is, look, I brought you in the world. I can take you out and I'll make another one looks just like you. Now, of course, that's sarcasm. That's not sincerity. But there are moments in time, right? I mean, we're all human beings where it's like, oh my God, nobody told me about this. Nobody told me it was going to be this hard. I didn't get the footnotes. So. Yeah,
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, dramatic, but truthful. And it's the thing, and this is the word, conditional love, unconditional love. And people go, oh, love is love. Well, I really feel you can't have love if there is conditions on it and if there's fear instilled in any of the parties involved, because there is a condition or there is something that you are really wanting from that person to change and become. And it's not possible. So whether they say where there is fear, there is no love. So this is the way I look at unconditional love. It is exactly that. Love, and there's no room for anything else but love. So if there's fear, or if there's control, or if there's whatever else can come in, jealousy or envy, or if there's that aspect to it, then there's conditions already. So yeah, that's how I feel about unconditional love. And of course, having like Takesha, she was, when I had her living with me, and just having that energy of such a beautiful little girl. I never experienced that feeling of like, I can take you out of the world, because there was never that cute, tiny little.
That's a little more masculine type of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like she would constantly ask me things like, Mira, can we play yoga now? And I go, okay, but first I have to do this and this. So, it was just more maneuvering how not to always say yes to her. That was really difficult because she just had that way and you just wanted to say yes to everything that she asked.
Oh yeah.
That's hard because she had this cuteness and she was just so innocent and sweet, and you just had to say, no, Kishi, we have to do this and this first, and we can't play in the park because now it's actually really cold and nighttime. And I know you want to go on the slide one more time, but it was just like, but there's this part of you going, I just want you to play forever. Don't worry about it. We won't eat tonight. Just play. So I think unconditional love comes in that space, especially when you get to be a parent and enjoy the innocence of children, as well as the lack of innocence when they're going through that, I guess, when they're growing up. And so that you have to also have even more unconditional love because you've got to be there even though you may not agree with their choices. So I think that's even more challenging to be in that space.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking about, and you were talking about how cute they are and how adorable they are, and they're master negotiators because you just can't say no to them. So I have this theory. I call it the small theory. Anything small is cute and adorable. I'll prove it to you. Right? Puppies, way cuter than dogs. Kittens, supremely more cute than cats. Humans, I mean, let's just talk about men here, right? We won't talk about women. But me at 47, if I were to strip off all my clothes on this session number 3, running around the room, people would be like, okay, we're done. We're never watching another WoMAN session again because that guy's crazy. He did some drugs. But yeah, if a toddler was in the room, a little boy, and if he came out and stripped all his clothes off and started running around the room, everybody would be like, see where you're heading already. Everybody would be like, oh my God, look at him. He's so adorable. Look, he got naked. Oh, that's so cute. Right? I mean, if I did that in the wrong place, I'd be in jail. They'd call the guys with the little white, jacket. So yeah, absolutely. We start out very soft, cuddly, cute, small, adorable, and quite honest, unblemished, right? So easy to love and so easily loved.
What a hard place to look at it. I just feel like you've just put conditions on a whole bunch of things right then. There could be a whole bunch of ladies that would be like, I wish he ran around naked right now. There could be a whole
oh boy.
There could be ladies and men, this modern day and age,
that
would love for you to run around naked in your living room and be like, oh, that's fantastic. Times are changing.
That's an interesting thought. I'm probably a little too conservative for that, so nobody get your hopes up. The other thing I was thinking, when you talked about, unconditional, it's such a challenge, we kind of have these if-then statements inside our head, well, if Mira does this, then that's when, I can give her my whole love, or if Zach does this, that's it. That's when I really start to feel full love for him. Or there's the when statement. When he does this, when she does that, that's when I can give him my full appreciation and my full love. So we have these strings attached.
I think in that, and that's where in relationship it becomes a real dance there. I think it's very, unless we're in that state of the Buddhas and the Jesuses of the world where we can actually live in a state of complete unconditional love at all times, in that presence and in that being, it's really difficult to be in that space. Of course, you're right. When something is cute and little, a little kitten, a little puppy, or a little newborn baby, or something innocent and pure, it's very easy to love in that unconditional space. Then you're turning around here. Hello.
Sorry. Had a wardrobe adjustment.
We went to the ocean.
Not getting naked, just moving the sleeves up there.
So I think in that space, it's a decision that I think two people make, and they say, okay, well, we're going to be in an unconditional loving space for each other, and we're going to hold that space for one another. And that is not an easy space to step into. People think they're stepping into that in marriage, but then they have, they already have conditions in that marriage. The minute you're signing, you have conditions already to the government. You have conditions to till death do us part. I mean, there's conditions put on in the actual ceremony. There are conditions. There are conditions from the family. There are conditions from all these people that are around. There are conditions from your own partner's mind to yourself, and even within yourself. So it's really lovely to strive for unconditional love. But the reality for it is a whole nother kettle of fish. And that's where it's a discipline in itself. You know, you can be unconditionally loving to children, you can be unconditionally loving to your plants, you know, can be unconditional loving to so many things. But, you know, how do we cultivate that unconditional love for another? And it has to start with unconditional love for the self. And that's the first, what I feel is the first step in any journey. What do they say? If you've got $1 million, you can give $1 million. If you've got a full tank of love, you can give love. If you've got unconditional love, then you can give unconditional love. So if you've got something, you can give it. If you haven't got it yet, how do you give it? So I think that's the way where the female perspective, I guess, is like we've got to cultivate it. I guess the human perspective is we've got to cultivate that unconditional love, completely integrate it within ourselves first in every aspect, and then we can share it in those aspects with your partner.
Yeah, you know, you were saying conditions, and I was thinking of the word expectations. You know, how many of us, and we may not even admit it to ourselves, we may not even be aware of it, right? It's subconscious or unconscious that we're stepping into these relationships with self and other, and we have all these expectations. We have these expectations of self, we have these expectations of others, we have the expectations of those around us. I mean, you're talking about marriage and the ceremony and the pomp and the circumstance, and you know, what's father-in-law's expectation of son-in-law? You know, what's the bride's expectations to fulfill what her mom wants her to do or something, right? And you might have 30 of your closest friends, or you might have 300 of none of your closest friends in the room all watching this thing. And I mean, you just heap on expectation upon expectation upon expectation.
Oh, I can feel that in my shoulders as you're saying.
Did you feel that 300-pound gorilla climb up on your backside there, and little itchy, little hairy? You're like, get that guy the heck off my back.
Well, when you started adding on the people, I went with the immediate family, and then I went with the friends, and then I went with the siblings, and I was just feeling like, oh my gosh, everybody has a vision, everybody has an idea of what this couple need to do here, let alone the couple between themselves. I think that's enough to work with. But then what I felt when you said expectations, I also felt obligation. Like,
oh, that takes it even deeper, right? Because now it's not something, you know, that I think is expected of me. Now it's something I must do, right? It goes from a should to a must. So now it's not even optional. Now it's, well, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, wow. And yeah, it's funny. Yeah, something like, I mean, you can expect good things. You can always expect like, oh, this is going to be wonderful. You can have expectations that are also positive. But I think if you have an obligation, especially if it's closer people to, closer family members, when there's an obligation, I think that's when unconditional love starts to vanish, and it becomes a shoulda, coulda, woulda.
I know in some of the workshops with WoMAN, we talk about the acronyms for love and fear. And so the acronym I came up for love was living, obvious, vibrant energy.
I really like that one. Yeah.
I thought you might like that.
Yeah, I do. Living, obvious, vibrant energy. Yeah. I really like that one. Is that okay if I use that?
Yep. Just need a 10% royalty off the top.
Okay, got it.
Oh, sorry. Wait, did I just put on my financial coach hat? Oh, I threw on an expectation there. That was not unconditional at all, was it? That was fully conditional. So you know what? You should just use that to your heart's content whenever you want, wherever you want. nor royalties whatsoever. That would be the unconditional gift.
Thank you for the permission to use the
Ooh,
acronym love.
I'm so glad I caught myself there and shifted from conditional to unconditional. And
And
then
what
of
if,
course go ahead.
sorry,
And then no, wait, ladies first. See, gentlemen, chivalry is still alive. It shall not die. Um, I think you were going to ask where I was going to head to, which
I was
is,
actually going to ask you an acronym for fear.
see, we're so, we're fear. Now that one, most everybody knows, right? I call it false emotions appearing real, but I think the other one I've heard used quite frequently is false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is when your mind spins up things that may never happen. They're not existing now. And in your future scaping, they may never exist. But your anxieties, your doubts, your irritations, your frustrations, right, all start to bubble up from your lower levels and your lower emotions about it.
And that's the human aspect, what do they say? If you're in anxiousness, you're anxious of the future. If you're in a depression, you're, regurgitating the past. So yeah, that's so true. I think that it is false. Yeah, false. Is it, you say emotions? Did you say false?
Yeah, I say false emotions. I've heard a lot of people say false evidence though. Right.
Yeah, false evidence, false emotions appearing real. And then there is no room. There's no room for living your obvious vibrant. What was your last word? E. Love.
Energy.
Energy.
Energy. Your space, man.
And yeah. Energy is, people think, oh, it's so woo woo, but how can it be woo woo? E equals MC squared. Like, so,
Wait, who said that? Wasn't kind of famous? Smart, perhaps. Yeah, absolutely. It's all around us, right? I mean, electricity is one of the reasons we're even connected like this, right? From across the globe. And
well, and even looking just at energy as in terms of a physical level that you feel within yourself. When you're in a feeling of unconditional love, and I feel like that's what we're cultivating a lot through these conversations and through the time that we've been chatting. We're really being processed through what it feels like to be really unconditional loving toward another person that we've never actually met in the physical form. So you can tell when your energies go up, when your energy literally in your physical being, when your energy feels flat, when your energy goes high, when your energy goes low. And when we are free of fear, our energy levels are obviously vibrating higher. When we're in a state of fear, automatically our energy levels start to pan out and we lose our energy because we're not being congruent. Where I feel energy comes from is from when our brain, our thought, word, and deed, our thought, our heart, our feeling, and our speech are totally in alignment. So there isn't that incongruency, and that's really hard to do sometimes, where you're feeling one thing, but then you're thinking logically another way. But then how do you line those two things up so that they're completely congruent, so that you can be in your center to all people around you and living in that space 24/7? It's a practice. It's a daily discipline. It's not the easiest road to travel.
no, not at all. And it seems, I don't know why we're wired like this, but it seems like our brains, I talk a lot with the men and be men that we talk about the three levels of our brain. You've got your higher conscience, and then you've got your subconscious, and then your unconscious. And in your unconscious brain, we a lot of times call it our monkey mind. That's just your base, animalistic, just wants to be comfortable, wants to be entertained, but also seemingly consistently, almost constantly goes negative, right? If there's a fork in the road, left versus right, the monkey mind is like, hey, we're going down whichever fork is the negative one, because that's where I'm at. And it seems like it's not like oh, okay, well, I fixed that. When did you fix that, Zach? Well, 3 years ago, and I went to one of Mira's weekend workshops, and boom, I'm fixed now. No, it's not like, right? I bandaged that all up. I'm good to go for the next 50 years. No, it creeps back in and over and over. And then And then there's that incongruence that you're talking about, and the negative and the positive energy inside our minds or inside our hearts. And then coming back to the place of understanding that this is a choice, but it wasn't a static one time, back in 1997 on a Thursday at 10 a.m., that's when I made the choice. And from that moment on, ladies and gentlemen, I've just been a marvelous, unconditionally loving man.
It would be nice if that was easy. But then, if that happened, then every single marriage commitment would actually still be intact today, because what they said on that actual day, the vow they actually made, I've been there myself. I'm divorced twice. I'm an absolute failure in being able to keep my word for that moment of what I was thinking, feeling, and saying. But if I practice on that daily and consistently, not just letting it peter out, it's all good on the day. You're feeling it on your wedding day. You're wearing your dress. You're wearing everyone's there, and you've got all the expectations and all the obligations wrapped around you with all the people that are there, giving you very beautiful presents, and you're like, that's great. Eating lovely food and having a great old time dancing. But then what happens 6, 7, 8, 10, 15, 20, 35 years down the track, when every single day you're getting a little bit further and a little bit further away? What's happening there,
Well, and I don't know how it is in Australia, but we have this little company called Disney here in America. They started here in America, but I think they're global now. And they coined this phrase. And wait, let me see if I can get this right. I got to think it over. Oh, yes. And then they lived happily ever after.
Good old Disney.
Good old Disney. Hey, it sells movies, it sells books, it sells all sorts of stuff. It just doesn't sell in real life, because then you and I and tens of millions of hundreds of millions of other people in your country and my country, they wrap their fingers around that, they wrap their arms around that, and then 2 months, 2 years, 20 years goes by, and shazam. And then it happens, right? Could be a car wreck, could be a broken arm, could be a child arrives when you didn't expect it, somebody loses their job. And that's when you start to understand the parts where it says, not just in health, but in sickness, right? Not just in good times, but in bad times. And we're like, wait a sec, they lied to us. If you're super literal, you're like, how dare Walt? I thought he was a good man. He totally fibbed. He completely pulled the wool over our eyes, because it isn't happily ever after, right? There's these challenging moments.
It is. It's kind of like you can't really, I don't think Walt Disney would want to ride at the end. And then they lived happily ever after, because every single day they vigilantly checked if they were congruent with their thought, word, and deed, and if their actions were reflecting that. If they, I think that was just a little bit too long.
Is that too deep? Oh, yeah.
Well, Fox, Disney, fairy tales. It doesn't sell Frozen toys. We're going to have this pulled off of YouTube like that.
Oh yeah. We're going to be excommunicated from the entertainment world immediately. How dare we tell the truth?
And but that's true. But everyone, I don't know if everybody, I know definitely me as a Libran ruled by Venus, like the heart rules my decisions a lot. And I definitely you get that fairy tale like, definitely when I was younger, I had that fairy tale like thing in your head, like, oh, it is, you can settle down and be married forever, and then everything's going to be lovely. And then, oh, I didn't realize I married a gambler, and oh dear, this is really tough right now. Or, all those bits get sort of, you kind of want to sweep them under the carpet, and you don't want to talk about them because, well, what's the outside world and all their expectations going to see that it's not so also pretty families, and you kind of cover up a lot. But then I think one day you get to breaking point, and I think a lot of people get to that breaking point, which is not a fast breaking point. It's like a slow burn breaking point. It's the same way people get really overweight from eating Maccas every day. It's like the slow cholesterol buildup that happens, slowly it creeps in, and then one day all of a sudden you're having cardiac arrest, and you're like, I wonder why that's happening. Could it be that I've been eating Big Macs every day? Oh, could it be that, why is this divorce happening? Why is this all ending? Why has this all come to some kind of head? Could it be that I've not nourished my relationship and been honest with myself and my partner every day? Yeah, possibly. I've been swallowing the Big Mac inside, the emotional Big Mac. and not being in that congruency. And it's uncomfortable to be in that incongruency, but then it becomes comfortable after, if you've done it for a long time, and to break out of it, because it's happening so incrementally. Like, kind of like if you go to the gym every day, you're not overnight going to look amazing. It's just happening incrementally. Anything worth having, it's as Buddha says, it's the way. It's the path. It's not just sitting one day in meditation to reach enlightenment. It's the entire lifetime of sitting for minutes and minutes and hours accumulated over lifetimes. So it's the way. And I think that's what's missing in, before people get married, no one's sitting down with them and going, well, do you know that this is going to be a daily horrible grind where you have to be in suffering every day and alleviate that suffering between the dynamic of the two of you every day? Some days it might be lovely, but majority of the time you're just alleviating your own suffering with somebody else and alleviating their suffering together on a path, which may not be completely parallel. Have a great time with that.
You know, suddenly, Mira, I'd like to get married for the second time tomorrow. That was so motivational, the daily grind of working through my emotions and helping her work through her emotions. I just suddenly, inside of me, I'm like, I can't wait to get on the ride a second time. I mean, where do I sign up for that? That's awesome.
Let's alleviate suffering.
So I'm so inspired. Let's suffer together, shall we? That'll be my lead-in line at the bars this weekend. Hi, I'm Zach. Would you like to suffer through life with me? I need a partner. I need a cohort in crime for this thing called suffrage. And I thought we would be great sufferers together.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Let's suffer together.
Have another, please. Let's.
But that's the actual reality of it, because until we're not in that space where we can fully occupy love into every crevice of our physical being, our emotional being, our mental being. The mental being is probably the hardest one, I'd say. Until we can't get absolute peace of mind, congruency through our speech, and complete physical acceptance of the physical being, I mean, we're just going to inflict suffering on whoever's beside us, really.
Well, there's that old cliche, right? The hurt others.
Hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt others. And here's the catch. Do you know that you're hurting? How many people are wandering around subconsciously, unconsciously, haven't got a clue about what kind of hurt they feel inside? And, you know, the joke amongst men that maybe isn't a joke is we're just bulls in china shops charging through life. And if you can paint a mental picture in your mind about a bull charging through a china shop, that is not a pretty picture. And if you happen to be a patron of that shop, when the bull runs through, anyone within near vicinity, it's not going to be pleasant. There are shards, there is pain, there's scratching, there's blood, there's carnage. I mean, and yeah, sure, that sounds a little dramatic like my teenage sons, but hey, this is what we do. No, but on the more softer side, I mean, really, if you haven't settled inside, if you haven't grounded yourself and your perspective inside, then you can be throwing off shards and glass and breaking things and breaking people, you know, left and right. And then the challenge is, if you're doing that knowingly or unknowingly, I think most of us, you know, we're not built like that. I don't think we're built to want to bring harm to ourselves and others. I think we do it mostly unknowingly. But if you're one of those humans on the planet, man or woman, well, guess what? Those who are the closest to you, yeah, they are going to suffer right along with you. They have no choice because they're just too close. They can't get away from the fallout.
I 100% agree. And that's, I mean, I always think of it as these things like when we're acting out sideways because we're not connected this way. You know, we act, something just comes out sideways, you know, and it is such a practice. You know, personally, this is what I feel has been my biggest thing, is being able to be in that connected to source or God or whatever you believe, the quantum field or whatever your belief is, to that higher self, that higher power, whatever you want to call it, connecting into that first, then connecting into that clarity of your own mind, and then connecting into what you're actually feeling into your heart, and then letting that translate into the physical through your actions. That is the daily practice. It is not for the faint-hearted. You can't just numb that out through Netflix, you know. That is you actually sitting there going, well, what is it that I really feel here? What is it that's really congruent in my path here? What is it that I want to, is my vision this way or is it not? And seeing where you can literally shine some light.
And then the clouds parted.
And then
And wait, there was a book somewhere and God said, let there be.
The sun is literally coming through the gap in the trees. It's actually like really strange.
You gentlemen, this is why I partnered with Mira, because of this kind of power. See, when you're one with energy, you can move mountains, part the clouds, men, bow at your, no, guys, don't do that. Don't emasculate yourself. Give her a hug, but don't bow at her feet. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Get a grip. You know, you mentioned the slow burn and you mentioned daily several times. And in a very pragmatic way, you know, I mean, let's just get real on the masculine side. Oh, Mira, stop it. I mean, we've heard this all before. If all men would just become wussies, if all men would just get super emotional, if all men would just get soft, if all men would surrender, and then here's our masculine. Oh, no, you're not going to do that to me, right? And our ego comes charging in on a white steed, right? In our lance and our shining armor, and, you know, God save the king, because we're not going to get womanly. How dare we exhibit our feminine traits? So we're trying to protect ourselves. But, you know, gentlemen, that's an inner lie. I can remember sitting in a room with a bunch of people after my divorce, going through a divorce workshop, and the gentleman got up in front of the room and said, today we're going to learn about loving ourselves. And my jock brain, my monkey mind was like, I am so out of here. But Mira's right. If you haven't centered with self, if you can't give yourself love, if you can't provide self-love, how could you give love to a woman? How can you give what you can't give to yourself? How can you
or
love
even to a
your
child,
children?
like, or even to a, I think, into anybody, really.
Right, a coworker, anything. And so then that daily and the burn, I think of a book that I read called The Slight Edge. And it was phenomenal because it talked about taking your life and not putting it on a T-chart, but putting that T-chart kind of sideways on the horizontal. And then, as you were saying, well, who read the footnotes on the marriage license that says you're going to do this thing called a daily grind, and, you know, every day you're going to wake up and you're going to have to choose to work through your suffrage and your partner's suffrage. No, we don't think of it like that. We don't want to think of it like that. But here's what Mr. Olson said in his book. It's these everyday, seemingly insignificant choices, because they're all choices, that we are maybe not paying attention to. And so I'm thinking in this regard with love, right, to another and your partner in life, you know, what kind of a deposit are you making into their love bank? Was it 10 years ago? Was it 10 weeks ago? Was it 10 minutes ago? And here's what he says, every day, right? Little bitty steps every day, positive or negative, is what sets you on that path of the 10,000 miles. And are you on an upward curve towards your higher self, or are you on a lower curve, you know, the upward curve towards love or the lower curve towards fear?
And, you know, it does come back a lot to what we said in episode 2, the 5 love languages. You know, if you know your own love language thoroughly and really well, and you know your partner's love language thoroughly and really well, you're on a greater and easier path to alleviate suffering from the daily grind. And you're able to do those little investments of love to that person and to yourself in a reciprocated, mutual way. And you don't want to think of love as a business, but we're really good at business. We're really good at saying, well, this is what this is and this is what this costs, and it's an even exchange, and it's, you know, you can balance out your spreadsheet at the end of the day. But how come we don't apply that same principle in relationship? You know, if you want to have a successful business, you know, you've got to have a common vision. You have your mission statement. If you want to have a successful business, everybody has to be on that same team meeting and know where everybody's at. We all communicate through minutes and memos, and everything's been documented. And it works because people have the same vision, a common goal, and everybody knows their strengths and their weaknesses and what role they play in that. Why can we not apply that same model to everyday relationships where do the two people understand the goal and vision? Do the two people involved understand what each other's strengths and weaknesses are? Do they understand how they want to be remunerated? Like, what is their love language? And creating a team atmosphere between the partnership. And I think they're the marriages that are successful. They're the ones that work united together. Like, I look at Michelle and Obama. You watch the two of them and you can see the united front they have, but it's not a front. They actually have the common vision. It's congruent. Mm-hmm. You look at Melania and Trump, they can't even live together in the White House. She has to live in New York. Like, they're already physically separated. Where's the common vision?
Yeah.
So it's obvious.
The word I thought of when you were stepping through that progression was practicality, pragmatism.
Mm.
Yet, who teaches us practicality when it comes to love? Books, songs, poetry, art, movies. I mean, Netflix. I mean, I'm thinking that through, and I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense to my male mind and my Capricorn mind and my, hey, let's go build something mind, right? Because this is how a lot of men stereotypically are. We're building something of some sort. And so building a relationship or building a marriage, right? You ought to start with that foundation. You ought to start with this practicality. You ought to make sure and check in and make sure you're on the same page. I mean, things ebb and flow, and people change jobs, and you have kids and cars and houses and move and this and that and the other. And to think, well, you know, the old joke, right, that isn't a joke is the old married couple, and the woman says, well, you know, Ben, you just don't tell me that you love me. And he looks at her quizzically and says, what are you talking about? When we got married 45 years ago, I told you I love you. If it ever changes, I'll let you know. Thank you. See, right? I mean, there's a guy that's not subconscious. That's completely 100% unconscious. But somewhere along the lines, we've got to think about, I guess, and that's why we're here today, is to integrate the romance and the ethereal and the 50,000 foot view up in the clouds and the doves and the unicorns and the rainbows and the Disney, and bring that back down to earth. Oh, sorry. Did I get off on I was up in the clouds there for a minute.
Right.
Yeah. And then bring that back down to earth to, how are you today, dear? How am I? What was a victory for you this week? What was a challenge for you? How are you feeling about the kids? Are we on the same page with parenting? What do you think about buying that new car, right? I mean, but doing all those things with love in the center of all that practicality.
And again, I come back to, and congruent with what you're thinking to what you're feeling to what you're speaking. Just like you would in a business meeting. You'd sit there and you go, well, I think this and this is going to go forward. And you say it because you feel it. And it's really quite simple. But the thing is, if for a long amount of time, say, I keep going back to this business model, if for a long amount of time that hasn't been happening, then from either party, then how can you build on that foundation? So I think that's where unconditional love in that congruency is really critical. Because if you're in a place where one person is unconditionally loving and then the other person isn't there yet, that's where there's going to be there'll be like a missing link between, when we talk about energetically between the two parties that are involved, because someone's not feeling like, oh wait, that's not what I feel, that's not what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm saying. So when you've got two people that are both on that page, then you can make decisions on how it works and how to move forward with things. But it's not it's not that comfortable sometimes. That's the plain and simple truth of it. You know, sometimes people sit for meals, like guys can sit down to dinners every night, eat food that they actually don't like that vegetable or they don't like that food, and they will eat it every day and they will never speak up. But they'll say to their
Right.
mates, oh, she makes that damn food every night. I have to eat that, whatever, whatever. She's not knowing. She thinks, oh, you eat it. Must be your
Because you
favorite.
like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Right.
things can build up for years and years and years.
That's true. And if we don't check in, we don't know. And if we assume, there's that old joke that assume makes an ass out of you and me. So there you are. So I have a
No
question.
meatloaf every day for the rest of my life.
Really? Ah, damn. All right.
Because
Well,
I'm
you're off the list.
vegetarian.
You're off the list. I got to go find another woman that's going to make me that mystery meat for the rest of my life, because that's the number one thing on Zach's list. How good's your meatloaf? I really don't care about it, love or unconditional, this, that, the other. It's about meatloaf. So, where do you think that you first learned unconditional love?
Oh my goodness. I mean, the classic thing is from your parents. I think unconditional love from, a mother to a child. Do you know what's funny though? For me, I definitely felt, it's going to sound so strange, I feel the most unconditionally loving when I listen to music, certain music. When I hear Mahalia Jackson's voice, or when Mahalia Jackson's singing, I mean, she's passed away, of course, but when I listen to her sing songs, something happens to me that I can't, it breaks me open in every way. I don't know where we've lost Zach, but you've just become a photo of you in a suit as we broke the internet. We just broke the internet with unconditional love and Mahalia Jackson singing.
Sorry, I had a potential call coming in. Am I back?
Okay, you're back. You only missed me
You're
talking
back.
about Mahalia Jackson and unconditional love breaking the internet.
No. See, that was the unconditional love part right there. You had to keep pushing forward, even if Zach steps away for a moment, and there might be some doubt, there might be some anxiety. What's happening there?
I just believed in Mahalia Jackson at that moment.
You just held on to that music. You're like, it's the music, baby. She's gonna see me through.
For
No,
me,
I
that resonance of her voice, the first time I just even heard her hum, I was like, it shocked me fully into my very core. I was like, this woman, she knows love, she knows pain, she knows suffering, she knows joy, she knew it all, even with just a and I was like, oh, I'm gone. And for me, it's been really rare that I've been able to listen to Mahalia Jackson without crying.
You know what? I don't think that's weird at all. I'll give you an example. And of course, this is a male perspective, masculine perspective, but I attend church fairly religiously. Now, if I get into a spiritual conversation with someone, I will tell them that I'm Christian and I dislike religion, because I'm just praying for them to get that bizarre look, the furrowed brow, and go, what did he just say? Because then we can go peel the onion and really talk about what spirituality is all about. So I'm a Christian, and I go attend almost every Sunday, and here's one of the main reasons I go. The first 15 minutes is worship, and it's a killer band. And I'm the son of 2 retired music teachers, and I get in the front row, and I listen as best as I can with my 2 ears, and I sing as loud as I can with this voice of mine. It's not professional like yours, but thankfully it doesn't crack like back when I was 17. And there are moments, and it almost happens every Sunday in those 15 minutes. It doesn't happen through the whole 15 minutes, but at some point there is a song, or there is a phrase, or there's a lyric, or there's a crescendo where then it ripples. And the energy ripples from the back of my neck all the way down to my toes, and the hair on my arms stands up, and I feel it. And there are many times where I would say, and guys, we can say this, there's been songs where I cry while I sing. And that's when I sense the most unconditional love in me, because
Mm.
then I start to think about all the people that are near and dear to me, but even the people who've harmed me, or been able to be in a position to, cause great angst in my life. And I still feel kindness and softness to those people as well in that moment.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And you know what that brings me to remembering about unconditional love, which I had tucked in the way at the back of my brain about a week ago when we brought up this topic. Um, it was forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
True forgiveness. It's it's the tool of freedom to forgive traumatic experiences or situations or people, places, things, whatever. Real forgiveness from, and we're not talking about anything new here. Forgiveness is when done with just that genuine, wow, I see where you were at and I see what happened, and it doesn't actually matter anymore. It's okay. When that actually floods through your being, the birds start chirping.
They're helping. When forgiveness happens, nature calls. No, wait.
Nature sings.
Oh, nature. There we go. Nature sing. The birds sing. No, I heard a great line just a little bit ago. Um, Pastor friend, not speaking in service, but just kind of talking randomly about marriage. And here was his comment. He'd been married for decades, and healthily married, not that happily married, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
farce. And then they lived happily ever. He said, no, we've been healthily married for like 40 years. And he said, I think one of the main reasons we've been able to accomplish that is because we have short-term memory loss. And
That's
what he
funny.
meant by that, yeah, what he meant by that was the practicality of forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That something happened, you didn't treat me the way I wanted you to treat me, or I didn't treat you the way you wanted me to treat you, or we had a bad moment, but then we don't have a mental scorecard. And then over
Mm.
10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years, I mean, you start stacking up those Jenga sticks, and now you have, one of the great pyramids. Instead, it's water under the bridge. It's been forgiven. To the best of your ability, it's also been forgotten. And you're moving on into the present moment instead of
Mm.
dragging the past along with you, all the wrongs of, Christmas past.
Well, it's funny, and even just from a yoga perspective, we study the anatomy of the body, but we look at where the emotions reside in certain organs. And when you think about when people feel so angry, they're livid, and that's when they get liver damage. When people have the gall to be that bitter, their gallbladders become dysfunctional. When people are so pissed off, their kidneys start to develop kidney stones. And you look at where all these expressions have come from, and you think, wow, they actually are linking to all these organs in the body. I've seen so many people, even, when they felt really unsupported, their lumbar spines went crazy, and they had a slip disc because they felt so unsupported in life, and especially in their financials, and their lumbar will just get vulnerable, which is their most powerful support structure in your spine, And so I look at when people can release those emotions, or when they can release those, whatever those blocks are from, forgiving and letting go of the past completely, I find that their organs and that their body and the physicality starts to also move more freely as their minds and their hearts start to, clean out and live more freely without carrying that baggage inside their bodies. So that just from a, Dr. Louise Hay writes about this stuff. She's got books and books and books on it. Publisher is Hay House Publishing. And, there's tons of books written about why these things, these diseases come, but from years and years and years of holding on to these incidents of the past. So, and they're storing physically in the body, the emotional body becoming the physical body. And we've lost Brett again, getting a call. Maybe. You're back. I trusted.
I'm
I
back.
trusted you'd be back. So I was just thinking of, yeah, Dr. Louise Hay, she really writes about, yeah, the power of forgiveness by affirming and letting go things from the body, from the heart, from the emotional place, and relates that into healing the body, healing the self. 100%.
Yeah. So that's self-love again, right? Directed inwards before you direct it outwards.
100%.
So
How
do
are
we
we
have
doing
any
for
home?
time? Oh,
I think we're there.
so in
to be
tune
con-
today.
to be continued. Do we have any homework for our listeners?
Well, if they've done their homework on episode 2 of discovering what their love languages are, so if they
Right.
know what is their love language that they wish to receive, and they've gone and discovered what that is, and then knowing if they've got a partner or a loved one and they've discovered what that love language is, I think they need to satisfy the love language that's theirs and be willing to ask for it, to fill up their own unconditional loving place.
Ask for what they'd like to receive.
Yeah, isn't it that it's the
Wait. Do
ask
do
for
men
receive?
do men have a problem with that? Wait, let's think this through for a minute. Men ask for directions, don't we? Oh wait, no, we don't. Let me think about this for a minute. Do we ask for what we want in the boardroom, gentlemen? Oh no, we don't do that either. That'd be self-promotion. So unless you're a narcissist, nobody does that. How about the bedroom? Do we ask for what we want in the bedroom? No, that would make us, arrogant and rude. So I like this bit of homework. I like
Ah,
this.
I think this is it. I think it's about ask and allow yourself to fill up your cup. I think that could be the homework for the week.
Perfect.
What's going to
Fill your
give you
cup by
more
asking.
unconditional love for yourself? Self love.
Perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the WoMAN crew.
Oh man.
Until next, whoa, man. Whole lot of love.
Yeah, a whole lot of love. So we'll catch you guys for episode 4.
Quattro.
Wow.
Beautiful. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for
Stay
having me.
tuned. Thanks for being here. Ciao.
Bye. Bye, everyone.